This book, The Lion Who Stole My Arm, is one that's close to my heart. When I was 8, 9, 10, 11, and starting to find out about all the terrible, ghastly things that human beings were doing to animals and nature around the world, I can remember getting pretty despondent, pretty discouraged. But what I found out in the course of studying zoology over the subsequent 30 years was that there are positive stories to be told. Yes, human beings do destroy rainforest. Yes, we get it wrong some of the time. But some of the time we get it right. And sometimes when we get it right because one individual has done something extraordinary and made other people change their behaviour. And I really wanted to tell those positive conservation stories. But I didn't want to tell them in a very straight, factual way. I wanted to write those stories for the sort of kids who didn't think of themselves as readers. So they had to be a really powerful and exciting narrative to package up this real conservation stuff. The other thing that I was really, really keen to do was not to write from the perspective of a visiting Westerner. There are books that write about conservation from the point of view of the child of a wildlife cameraman or a visiting academic, and I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to write from the point of view of a child living in a culture that's perhaps very different from the one that my readers were used to, with a different set of values, with a different set of life circumstances, perhaps in places that were quite remote, that didn't have even electricity or running water, things that my readers would absolutely take for granted. So each of these books, this is the first, The Lion Who Stole My Arm, and I've now written 6 of these stories, has been very, very closely researched, in many cases involving me going to the country, seeing the place, if I haven't seen it before, talking to the people, interviewing the people, seeing their lives and hearing their stories. And as a result, each one of these books is a real patchwork of pieces of real life that I've been told, that I've seen, that I've in some way picked up from a real place and a real situation and stitched together to tell the larger conservation story. The child at the centre of this story, just to give you an example, in my story he's called Pedru. In real life he's based on a child who was called Hassan. Now my little boy is 11 when he is attacked by a lion. I'm not giving too much away there because that happens in the first chapter. The real little boy he's based on, Hassan, was attacked by a lion when he was 5 years old. So a pretty terrifying experience for a 5-year-old. Luckily for Hassan, he was attacked by a lion that was an inexperienced hunter. So instead of just killing him straight off and eating him without him really knowing very much about it, this young lion grabbed little Hassan by his left arm and was dragging him off into the bushes. Now, 5 years old, imagine how terrifying that would be. But he wasn't numb with fear, he was actually angry. He realised that the lion was holding him by his left arm, but his right arm was free. So he made his right hand into a fist and he punched the lion in the mouth until it let him go. By which time his left arm was so damaged that he lost it. In the photograph that I found of him that was taken 5 years later, he's standing very straight, looking into the camera, looking very serious and very grown up. And he's got a fishing pole over his right shoulder. He's got scuffs on his knees. He looks like the sort of kid who is always driving his poor mother to distraction. And it was clear to me from that photograph that here was a child whose life had not been impaired by the fact that he'd lost an arm. And I knew when I saw that photograph, I had found the child who would be at the heart of this story and would help me convey this very important conservation problem and its solution to my readers in Europe and America. In researching this story, I worked very, very closely with scientists and conservationists working in Africa. In particular, the scientists working in northern Mozambique, in the Niassa Carnivore Reserve. And, we back and forth, lots of questions and emails, and I sent them drafts, and finally I finished the story, and I sent it to the scientist to whom this is dedicated, a South African scientist called Colleen Begg, who has been working in Mozambique for many years. I sent her the book and I said, look, just tell me if I've got this right. Give me any feedback. I don't care how negative it is. I just need to know. And I sent off the text and I didn't hear anything. And I thought, oh no, she doesn't know what to say. It's so bad. She doesn't know what to say. Now, email connection between the UK and that part of Africa can be a bit dodgy. So I waited quite a long time before I got this fantastic email. And in it, Colleen said the best thing she could have said. She said, "You've told our story. I would love a Portuguese translation of this book because I want to give it to everybody who lives in the reserve because it's telling them all the things that we want them to know."